everybody can find a seat and so we can get this meeting started. Roll call, please.
Mayor McKay,
Here.
Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Here.
Councilmember Fisickelli, Councilmember Hartman,
Here.
Councilmember Schroeder.
Here.
Could I get a motion to excuse from me?
So
Make-
moved.
Seconded.
All right. Roll call, please.
I just did roll.
I'm doing it
On the
on
vote.
related to
On the vote.
excusing.
Councilmember Hartman,
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski.
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
Yes.
Motion passed.
We could please stand for the pledge. All right. That's okay. That's all right. Andy, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Sure, Mayor, thank you. Tonight's resolution is being brought forward in response to concerns that were voiced by the public and by the council. Before I outline the details of the resolution, I do need to correct the record on our relationship with BCPA, Property Appraiser's Office. To begin, fire assessments are solely determined by the town. We requested assistance from BCPA, and they complied with our request. The only issue that we had was that they did so much faster than we had anticipated. We quite frankly did not expect to be having this discussion this year. That said, I do want to sincerely thank the Broward County Property Appraiser's Office for their help. Our issue was only one of communication between our offices. I'm pleased to let you all know that we had an outstanding meeting yesterday in Marty Care's office, and we were able to thoroughly air this issue out. I'm happy to say also that we're on the same page moving forward. The Property Appraiser's Office does have a role to play that relates to our residents, and I know that their representatives may speak to that shortly this evening. All right, moving on to the resolution at hand. At the last council meeting, the residents and council consistently pointed out that commercial barns were not the same as commercial retail, and they should be treated differently. They specifically requested to be treated as agricultural. We agreed with their request and set out to try to find a way to do that. What was crucial for us was to do it without jeopardizing the overall fire assessment collection. The total assessment covers about 3,000 properties townwide and will bring in almost $2.2 million. The overall total to be collected did not vary by the change in methodology, and any plan that we tried to implement needed to be equitable and fair and needed to pass legal muster. So the resolution before you tonight treats the agricultural properties as agricultural, not the same as Lowe's and Publix. The resolution would raise those traditional commercial retail square foot costs from the preliminary rate of 39 cents back up to 90 cents, which is still less than the 99 cents per square foot they paid last year. The ag commercial properties would then be moved into the vacant/agricultural category as the most logical category to accommodate the council's intent. This cost would be assessed at a cost of $95.21 per acre, and that would be inclusive of any barns or farm structures. The overall agricultural acreage will be as determined by the Property Appraiser's Office. I do want to say a special thank you to Marty, to Keith, and to Russell for their hard work on this, and I'd also like to once again thank the Property Appraiser's Office for their assistance. And Mayor, I know Keith wants to get into a little bit more of the history on this, and if it's okay with you, I'd like to let him speak to that now.
Not a problem. Keith, you're up to bat.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. And I'm pleased to have in the audience members from the Property Appraiser's Office. General Counsel Mila Schwartzreich is here with co-counsel, and Holly is here as well. So if anyone has any questions directly with the property appraiser relating valuation issues, you can definitely speak to them outside. By way of background, the town passed a fire assessment study in September 12th of 2011. It is a very short document that had a lot of debate on the council at the time, but mostly the debate, as I recall, was based on the residential valuations and how to assess residential homes, and little discussion took place relating to the agricultural properties and the commercial properties. Regardless, this assessment was passed by the council in September of 2011, and at that time, the then financial administrator, I don't even remember who it
Charlie
was then.
Dye. Not Charlie Dye, I mean, Charlie. Charlie.
Dean
Either
what?
Burt Raines or it was,
Either Gene Watson
Watson.
or Burt Raines made a decision at that point that properties that were commercial ag, meaning that they had certificate of use stating that they were agricultural and a operational business, that the structures on that property would be listed in the commercial component of the town's fire assessment study. And that was done back in 2011 by the then financial administrator. I don't think the council ever determined that. I don't think it was ever a vote of the council. I think the financial administrator at that point did it based upon what they viewed as commercial at that time. So from 2011 through last year, there was really no issue and no discussion as to the issue. The barns that were commercial and the structures that were commercial were paying the commercial fee without incident until there were some changes in state law. And when the state law changed, it basically said that if a structure is a pole barn, and that has the definition 70% open space, and it's defined by state law, or the structure is over 10,000 in value, then it becomes assessable under a fire assessment sort of situation. As a result of this, there were certain properties that were then commercial in the town, that were agricultural commercial, that were looked at again by the property appraiser's office as the valuation, and the valuation and size changed, and a couple of those structures went up dramatically in terms of the fire assessment last year. Notably, Diamond Dye, and I know their legal counsel's here as well. Neil, somewhere here. Sorry, Neil. As a result of that increase, at least one of them, Diamond Dye, filed a lawsuit against the town of Southwest Ranches and the property appraiser, claiming a lot of different things. Neil can tell you later, but everything from equal protection to bad methodology to bad fire study to, everything you can think of, claiming that our fire study was somehow flawed. So at that point, the town did the research to try to understand a little bit about what happened with Diamond Dye and to figure out how it works with the structures that are valued over $10,000. There were a plethora of emails that went back and forth between Martin Shorewood and Holly, actually, from the property appraiser, about valuation, how to determine what structures in the town were greater than that $10,000 limit and what structures weren't. The town had a meeting with the property appraiser. It was I was not at the meeting, but Andy was there and Marty was there and some others from the town were there. And it was discussed about going through the agricultural structures of the town to try to figure out the valuation of those structures. Emails persisted, and I codified the discussion, I think it was in December, Amelia's shaking her head, yes, I'm right on the day, where I wrote back, listen, all the town is looking for is to determine the value of these agricultural structures so we know which ones are accessible and which aren't. The way that I understand it, Amelia, please correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not going to be sensitive, is that prior to this, the property appraiser's office looked at everything based on total square footage on the property, and that's how they determined their valuation. So if you had a barn and a house and other things, it was looked at as total square footage of all the structures on the property, and that it was never segregated out as to what constituted the agricultural structure and what constituted the house or other structures. Am I generally correct on that? Generally.
That would be on the roll for a house is different than a value for a barn. The barn we assess
Mila, could you just state that at the mic? Because I just want you to clarify this point. Thank you.
value of your residential home and the value per square foot of a barn or other agricultural structure clearly is different. But through that process, for assessment purposes, for ad valorem taxes, we group that together. We don't set out what value is for one structure, what value is for another structure. The law doesn't require it, and no property appraiser office does. So we do it together based upon the square footage and based upon the quality and the condition of each property.
Correct.
And that's
Any
the
need
ad
for-
valorem, not the fire fee, correct?
Completely only for ad valorem,
It's
because
ad
that's
valorem.
the only thing the property appraiser's
Yep.
office has the purview to do.
Thank you.
But remember, council member, for us, the valuation is critical, because if it's less than $10,000, we can't assess it. So
fire fee.
the fire fee, can't assess the fire fee. So as a result, Martin Sherwood couldn't figure out what structures should have been on the assessment roll that were commercial, and what structures weren't, because we didn't know the valuation, hence their meeting. Their meeting was, please, property appraiser, we would really appreciate it if you can figure out the valuation of these structures so we know what we're talking about. The town thought, and I think probably the property appraiser back then thought, it would take a couple of years to figure it out. At least that's what we thought. I think Andy thought it was going to take 2 years, is what he told me to occur. The property appraiser did it immediately. Did it very quickly.
Within the tax year.
Yes, within the tax year.
You ask us to lend you a hand to do a job, we accept it, and we do it expeditiously.
So fast forward to July of this year, we are starting to look through, the town's starting to look through the assessments, the valuations and the separation. And I go in quickly because I was here before a meeting, and I asked Marty how it affected Diamond Eye. And in fact, I think I called Neil, immediately and told him that the dollar amount changed. So what transpired was that a lot of the commercial agricultural structures that we did not know the value was over $10,000. Once we figured out that the valuation was over $10,000, they were immediately placed within on the town's rolls as commercial structures. And once all those structures went into the commercial category, there were so many more structures in that commercial category that the overall rate that they were paying, which last year was 99 cents, immediately dropped, Andy, I think, to 39 cents, because we added so many new structures to that category. Some people benefited. Diamond Eye benefited. Others who had not been classified in the past as commercial agriculture because the town didn't know that they had a value over the $10,000, they were hit with their first-time assessment that was larger than they had ever gotten before, and that's what transpired. So the town then in July, when we were at the meeting, that was the first notion where I mentioned that I, was back in Marty's office and saw this come in that, it's reclassification, however you want to call it, that some structures went up, some structures went down, but this is what transpired. Clearly, I might not have been as eloquent as I thought I was because I missed the next meeting. And when the town council approved the fire assessment, I don't think there was any discussion. I rewatched the meeting. I don't think there was any discussion on what I had mentioned at the prior meeting relating to the fire assessment. It wasn't until the town sent a letter, property appraiser responded with a letter, and there was a sudden realization that many of those bills were larger than people expected. Was there a realization that it really had an impact larger than anyone thought it really had? So fast forward, the town is now on notice that there are structures in the town that are commercial agricultural structures that do not have what we call a certificate of use, because all the ones that were commercial before had certificate of uses. That's really why they were on the tax rolls to begin with, but it's a little bit different story. So the town realized that it had all these new structures that did not have certificate of use that were placed in the commercial category, and now, there's such a sentiment of such a large increase. What do we do about it? So we worked for the last 2 weeks to try to figure out a potential solution. And in fact, Fred Cox called me and said, hey, you ought to look at the study again to see if there's any means in the study to do something differently. So immediately following the call, I called Andy. I said, listen, I haven't looked at this, 8-page study since 2011. Send it to me. So I reread the study, and I determined that Fred was correct, that the study is not only poor, it does not specify what is commercial agricultural, what is agriculture, what vacant agriculture is, and it does not separate properly where a agricultural structure should be that's valued over $10,000. So as a result of this, we had a call, and I said to Andy, listen, you got 6 categories. I think it's 5 categories on this study that you could put these structures into. That's what you have a choice now. The town's on notice of these structures. Figure out a place to put them. So after looking at it, they weren't residential. The argument was it wasn't commercial. Industrial warehouse was even higher. Institutional was higher. So then we came down to the agricultural category, which you would think a barn is agricultural. And that specifies that the assessment is not based on square footage, which is a little bit contrary to where we should be, and hopefully the next study will address that. But it says that agriculture should be based on a charge of 95.21 per acre of land. Ag acre of land, correct. So I went back and on our call, and I said, Marty, can you do some quick math and figure out if a property owner was only charged at 95.21 per ag acre, where that structure was located, how much would it, potentially reduce their assessment? Most of the time, it was 10% roughly of what the original rate would have been had they said commercial agriculture. So then I said, okay, once you got that number, obviously, if you're pulling all those properties out that do not have a certificate of use, who weren't in commercial before, if you're pulling them all out of that category, what happens to the commercial category? And he did the math, and he said that will actually still reduce because we've reduced everything, and that reduced down from 99 cents last year to 90 cents this year. So the commercial category would also get a 10% reduction. So Lowe's would get a 10% reduction just by moving out those properties to ag. So, as a result of this, I came back and said, listen, this is a policy decision of the council. But I think it is legally justifiable to be able to say that you can, within your purview, to deem these structures valued over $10,000 to be in the agricultural category and not in the commercial category if the council so desires. Once again, the town council has a policy decision to make as far as that's concerned, where to place those structures. I don't believe they can just be ignored. I believe you can ignore the entire fire assessment completely if you choose to do that. You could say no fire assessment and take care of it through ad valorem. But I believe that once we're on notice that the structures exist, you got to figure out a category within this horrific study to place it in order to make this study defensible and keep the numbers where they need to be. So that everyone understands, because I've heard a lot of confusion about this from residents. The way the study works, and I know Fred is an expert now because he went through it, is you have an overall dollar amount that you need for your fire assessment. And what's that number, Andy? 2 million to?
It's just shy of 2.2 million.
Okay, 2.2 million. And then the study tells you, based on fires that were done in 2011, what the breakdown is of that 2.2 million. So we know that institutional had 6%, so 2.2 million, you take the 6% and it goes in that category, and then that number is spread against the institutional properties. Commercial's 15%, so that's how they do it. So it's based upon the separation of those numbers of assessments within each of those categories. So it's now back for the council, after a long discussion of what's defensible and what's not, to make a policy decision if you believe that these structures should be moved from the commercial category to the agricultural category. That's the town decision. If a resident believes that their structure is not worth $10,000, that's a valuation discussion, and that's with the property appraiser. And I think there was a lot of confusion back and forth when I was reading, the letters and emails and everything else of where the divergence is between the town and the property appraiser. The property appraiser sets the valuation of these structures. So if you think it's worth less than $10,000, you speak to the property appraiser. The town assigns a category to the structure and the fire assessment attached to that category. So if you have a problem with the category you're in, that's the town issue, valuation, property appraiser. I think, Mila, please jump in if I said anything incorrect on this, but I'm pretty sure that at this point, that's the history here, and that's where we both stand.
I think it's abundantly clear that the fire assessment is completely within the jurisdiction of the town, not the property appraiser's office. The property appraiser has absolutely no legal authority to impose a fire assessment, to increase a fire assessment, to decrease a fire assessment. However, if a property owner has an issue with the value of their farm, of their barn, of their stable, and they believe it's worth less than $10,000, I brought a stack of business cards. I will stay till the very end and pass them out. Please, reach out to us. We will be glad to review it and re-review it and make sure everybody is had the opportunity to present that information to our agency. Thank you.
Mil-
So Andy, I know there may be questions, and I know
No,
that you're
the-
going
the
to
only
public
thing
comment,
I-
and Mila's here as well.
Kate, the only thing I wanted to add to what Mila said is you talked about the assessed values under $10,000. Pole barns by statute are also exempt as well. Thank you.
And again, a pole barn is a open-air structure of at least 70%, and if you have a pole barn that fits that category that was assessed more than $10,000, that's also something that the property appraiser would look at as well. I got to give it to the mayor.
Okay. All right. Are we going to Marty now, or where do we want to go? Or do you want this resolution?
It's your call, Mayor, whether you want to open up the public now, you have questions for staff, however you want to go.
I thought I'd let Marty, well, I don't know. What's the council want to do? You want to go to public? You want to go to Marty next?
Do we need a motion to?
Mayor,
Yeah.
Mayor, if I may, Marty's got the PowerPoint to do later on
Okay.
this. He didn't have comments on this specific
Okay.
topic.
All right. All right. Public comment, if everybody's good with that.
Do we need a motion first
Okay.
to open it up?
Go ahead and give me a motion.
Let Russell read the item onto the record, and then if there's a motion, either way, anyway.
Okay.
Okay, there's a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, repealing Resolution Number 2019-048 and approving a new preliminary fire services assessment relating to the provision of fire protection services, facilities, and programs in the Town of Southwest Ranches, Florida, providing purpose and definitions, providing for the imposition and computation of fire protection assessments, incorporating the fire protection assessment report, providing for legislative determination of special benefit and fair apportionment, establishing the rate of assessment, directing the preparation of a preliminary assessment roll, providing for an exemption for veterans service-connected total and permanent disability, authorizing a public hearing and directing the provision of notice thereof, and providing an effective date.
Make a motion?
I'll
Second.
All right, got it.
I don't care. All right.
Mayor beat me.
You want to open the public now?
Sounds like.
All right. We're opening to the public, so anybody would like to come up and speak towards this matter, feel free.
2 minutes.
And
Noel
I think,
Hollingsworth.
one second, Newell. I think, Mayor, if there's questions, we'll all write them down, including us, the property appraiser, and then we can address it when public comment closes.
Okay, sounds like a plan.
Noel Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. There's only one question. Is there going to be a new fire study? And is this new fire study built into the fire assessment fee this year? That's the only question I have.
And I meant to address that. So I'm going to break protocol and just answer. Andy has assured all of us that there will be a new fire study this year with full input from the public and especially the ag community. And Andy, if I'm not wrong, the number is included in the fire study.
for the upcoming year, there is money that has been put aside for ultimately for replacement vehicle on a new fire truck, and we wanted to reallocate those funds this year to get that fire study done that much quicker. So yes. In answer to your question, we're going to draw from the existing fire fund. We can't do this.
No, Mayor?
No, you can't.
You gotta have to take your turn to
Okay,
come up with the
one
mic.
second, because I clearly, Neil, if you just give me 1 second, because I understand where this resident is going. The question that is being asked is, the notice that I got in the mail, the trim notice that has this fire assessment on it, is that going to change? If the council tonight votes to put these structures, and I assume yours is one of them, into the agricultural category, then the fire assessment will drop to 95, I'm going to screw this up, 95.21 per agricultural acre of property instead of the number on there. So if you have 2 agricultural acres of property, multiply 95.21 by 2. So that's what your new assessment would be if the council approves moving you from commercial to agricultural in the assessment study by acreage. Yes.
Agriculturally exempt acres.
No, some people were done before. If you had a certificate of use, you were done before. If you did not, you were missed because of as Ms. Schwartzreich mentioned before, there was not a clear delineation, separation between those structures, so it was missed. So, yes. So on the commercial category, it was done by square footage.
Ma'am, could you come up to the mic, please?
Sorry.
Yeah.
You sure?
Doug, is this how you're going to work it?
No, listen, they're jumping back and forth.
We can't hear
He's
you up
jumping
here. I
in.
apologize. I can't hear you. So.
Maybe we could get a little money for that. Good evening, I'm Neil Kalis, Kleiman and Wolf. I'm the attorney for Diamond Eye. As I'm standing here, I couldn't help but notice the lovely emblem of the town of Southwest Ranches has a beautiful horse on it with a bird, but you don't have horses, you have barns, and of course, the town really is known for its horses. Way before it was even the town of Southwest Ranches, the area was known for its horse farms and rather, I want to say, a little bit of a bohemian lifestyle, but people sort of got along with each other and did their own thing. So Diamond Eye, first, and I want to thank Mr. Polikoff. He's made himself very available to me, and I appreciate that. We have a fundamental disagreement about Diamond Eye specifically, but probably in general, the fire assessment and how it has been interpreted and applied. In 2018, my client's fire assessment went to over $12,000 on its barn, which of course triggered the litigation that is currently pending. My client is being treated disparately, which I don't think the council intends to do, but even under what you propose, for some reason, if you have a barn with what Mr. Polikoff informed me of with a certificate of use, even though it's a barn and you have ag class, you will be treated differently than the rest of the commercial barns that are now going to go back to agricultural classification for fire assessment purposes. Regardless of the certificate of use and where the heck that came from, because my client says he never filled one out, and I believe actually Mr. Polikoff may have represented the previous owner of the property on the sale. No? Pirtle? Maybe? No? Any rate, I don't know. Do you have a copy of the certificate of use? Did my client sign it? Oh.
Over on time. You wanna give 'em-
Yeah. You're over on time, so
I don't know who this is. I'm sorry. I'm running out of time. I did run out of time.
you're out of time, yeah.
I'm out of time.
I apologize, but I don't know how many people want to speak, so.
All right, well, can I just say real quickly to wrap up, regardless of certificate of use, and this is not my client's signature on this form, but regardless of certificate of use, no certificate of use, my client is entitled to be treated the same way as the rest of the agricultural classified properties that have a barn on them. And according to Mr. Polyakoff today, my client will not be treated the same. So I'm bringing that to your attention. That's not a way to, I think, get a resolution to this entire situation. And he admitted that the fire study was poor.
Yes.
Poor. Thank you.
You're like that vice president candidate for Ross Perot. Who am I and what am I here for? I know who I am and I know what I'm here for. Real quick, I'm against Resolution 2019-48 that passed 5-0 on July 23rd. Tonight we have a Plan B. I'm going to refer to it. The first was Plan A. Lil's going to come up and tell you a fatal error in Plan B. So now you're going to revise it to a Plan C. I'm opposed to Plan C. So let's skip forward to Plan Z. Roll this back to last year. Number one, Chapter 170.01 specifically states you may assess us. State of Florida says I may get a marijuana card and smoke marijuana. I choose not to. State of Florida says I can buy an AR-15. I choose not to. Y'all created this town. You invited us out here. You said we could lead a peaceful life. We're small agriculture, barns in the backyard. You've had 16 years to assess all the barns and to tax them and assess them a fire fee that were non-ag. It's 163 that I received from Russell Public Records. You've never touched them. State law says you can now touch us. Well, if they've been paying 16 years, it's my turn. But no, you're only singling ag barns out. That's discriminatory, it's not fair, it's not equitable, and the law specifically says it has to be fair and equitable. Number two, I asked for fire data. The town has no fire data. You have no data on ag barns. You have no data on non-ag barns. The state law specifically says you have to do this fair and equitable. This is not fair, this is not equitable. Real quick, at the end of my street, it's a beautiful house, 12,724 square feet. The fire fee last year, $543, dropping to $523. Estates Drive is two houses, $8,691. One next door, $11,126. Both their fees are dropping to $523. Holity Trail, $14,441. Another house, $22,061. They're paying $523. $523. A house went on fire in Weston. 50 firefighters showed up. I hope and pray that if a house catches on fire, we get more attention than my barn. My houses, my horses, and the boarding horses are outside.
Sorry, Fred, time's up, buddy.
Okay. No, I'm out of time. Real quick, Keith's smarter than all of us. He only pays $248 or $18? $218 fire fee. And last but not least, and I got a lot more, tax my barn. Tax my barn, you're going to do me harm. But if the data doesn't fit, you must acquit.
My concern is
Identify
what-
yourself, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lori Parrish, 12801 Luray Road. My concern is what Andy just said, is that we talked about the volunteers and firefighters, and it seems like year after year, it's sort of like parks and recreation. If you got to dump and take away from somebody, why do you keep picking on the same issues? I don't like the idea that the $39,000 comes, that they lose something to make up for something that was no fault of theirs. Mr. Polikoff, I noticed last year, cut his budget from $880,000 to $736,900, and I see that they're based on the expenditures of $470 something, that they're proposing $520. Based on that, if he had the $736, they're projecting that I don't know, Mr. Sherwood said if it was $470 or $50, there's more than $39,000 there. So I would ask all of you that Mr. Polikoff has been so frugal that you take the 39,000 that Andy's proposing to take out of the volunteers budget, put it back with all those savings from your attorney, and then let the fire issue stand on its own. The other thing is the property appraiser has always assessed barns. They're a special feature, just like a swimming pool. The only ag value, if you have a structure, is you get the land underneath it gets ag. Buildings never get ag. And if you get ag, I don't know, it's been a while since I've been there, you saved about $160,000 an acre on ag, as opposed to what the rest of us pay. So there's a definite benefit of having an agricultural classification. Lots of us have, agricultural activities, but we're not commercial. If you stop by, I'll give you a dozen eggs. I'm not going to sell them to you. But so some of us have like a farm lifestyle, but we don't care to go through the hassle of being commercial. But there is value, and I agree that everybody should be treated alike. And I also ask that you'll please consider taking part of the money you saved and funding the volunteer fire department as they were promised in their 5-year plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I'm Lil Sayer, 5101 Thoroughbred Lane. First, I'd like to point out that your new fire assessment worksheet appears to be an error. Comparing it to the previous worksheet, the commercial category has been reduced by 473,345 square feet. Dividing this by 43,560, the number of square feet in an acre results in just under 11 acres. But the vacant agricultural category was increased by 394 acres. And while it now shows 1,821 acres instead of the previous 1,427 acres, the proposed rate remains the same as before at $95.21. If the acres go up, the rate must come down. Obviously, you can't approve a document with these errors. Even if there were no errors, however, this proposal is not acceptable. The whole process has been deceptive from the start. You were elected to protect our rural lifestyle, not to try to tax us out of existence. You've been working on this barn fire assessment since last November in secret. When you finally sent us a letter in July blaming the property appraiser for misclassifying some agricultural structures, the property appraiser had to write us to, quote, correct inaccuracies, unquote, in your letter. There is no law mandating that you assess barns on lands classified as agriculture. In fact, Florida statute prohibits you from doing so unless the structure is valued at more than $10,000. This is 100% your decision. Then I've heard that this was brought about by a lawsuit from a farm that had been arbitrarily assessed. That farm should not have been assessed in the first place. End that lawsuit by refunding the money instead of trying to justify your error by assessing us all. That is still not fair and equitable. Why should my barn be taxed when my neighbor's barn is not taxed? They can both burn the same. Please reject the imposition of any barn fire assessment. Then commission a new fire study, have workshops, and resolve any issues in the sunshine. Thank you.
Good evening, council members, mayor, administrator. I'm Fred Siegel. I'm the president of Broward County Farm Bureau. I live in Pompano, but with Farm Bureau, we cover the entire county. And to me, the big issue you have here is if you're going to assess a barn on a commercial property and not assess a barn that's on a non-commercial property, it's a inequitable system. There have been other counties, and there are other counties in the state right now looking at fire assessments. Highlands County just came up with a fire assessment on that they are proposing on non-residential farm buildings of 5 cents per square foot. If you're going to do something, a farm building needs to be looked at as what it is, a farm building, not a commercial structure, not any other type of structure, but a farm building. all structures need to be treated on a fair and equitable basis based on what they are.
David Kaczynski, 6411 Holity Trail, President, Sunshine Ranches Homeowners Association. Council, fire department has never saved any barn, any barn structure in the town, so why should the barn owners pay for a fire fee? If last year's resolution language worked, I compared it to this year's resolution language, and there was no change in the statute, why was the language changed? What I'm seeing is balancing the fire tax on the backs of our farmers and ranchers to the benefit of the true commercial businesses on Coquina and Dykes. Example, Coquina Plaza, 15701 to 15801 Sheridan. Last year, their fire assessment was $73,247.13. Under the proposal, it's reduced to $28,854.93, a reduction of $44,392.20. The Romeo's Little Caesars Plaza. Last year, $21,724.56. This proposal, $85,558.16, a reduction of $13,166.40. Walgreens, 14,703, reduced to $57.92, a difference of $8,911. The Pirates Republic, last year's 6,092, reduced to $2,400, a difference of $3,692. CubeSmart, last year 162,792.16, reduced to 141,558.4, a reduction of $21,233.76. Bank of America, $5,631, reduced to $2,218, a difference of $3,412. You see where I'm going with this? It's being balanced on the backs of our farmers and our ranchers, and personally, I think it's not fair. Thank you.
Robin Ditzian, 5501 Holity Trail. We have been living in the ranches since 1983. We have a small, well, not a small barn, but we do have our horses, and we board horses at our place. It's just a regular little farm. Why are we getting taxed? Our taxes went up from $550 to $4,000 with this proposal. This is ridiculous. You can't force these people to go ahead and us to pay this amount of money. I don't know any barns that have caught on fire. I mean, we've been here since 1983. I started thinking about when was the last time a barn caught on fire? Why are we getting taxed this? We're not a commercial operation. It's a small mom and pop thing. My mother boards horses. That's it. There should be no reason in the world that our taxes go up that much because of this fire assessment. And we definitely don't want it to happen.
Gay Chapels. Lived here 60 years, have 4 pole barns on my property. I found out that my husband been paying 2 fire for 1 house. What they did was they said, I have 2 plats on my 9 acres. And so therefore, I have a structure on 1 plat, which is my house, and 1 acre, and then the rest of the property has a barn on, has several barns on it. Well, at the time, they hit me with whatever it is, $540 and then $540 for the other plat because it had a structure on it. So now I'm going to pay both of those and another $1,800 for my pole barns. Now, that might be all well and good for those 20,000 square foot houses because it's a drop in the bucket. But to me, I don't have it. It's that simple. And this is what forces the sale of all of the barns that are under ag that are going to be paying another type of tax. You need to do away with the taxes on these barns. I'm paying 2 right now, 2 fire. And I will tell you, there were 2 barns that burned. One was Freddie's, burned to the ground. I don't even think they made it there. The other one was another barn behind a very nice home, a block away from the fire department, burned to the ground. So, as far as the barns are concerned, they haven't got a Chinaman's chance.
Kathy Cox, 4940 Thoroughbred Lane. Back again, complaining about abusing the horse community here. Got my little sign. Welcome to the one-horse town of Southwest Ranches. Soon to be a no-horse town, thanks to you all. I have another sign in my yard that says, will the last horse leaving Southwest Ranches please burn the barn? At least you'll get your fire assessment fee back. This is totally wrong what you're doing, and I think 3 of you got the email that I sent disputing how you were assessing the fire assessment. And I think you've taken that into account here with your Plan B. But quite frankly, if you keep doing this to the horse community, we're going to get run out of here. I think it would be much better. I think it would be much better if you got your. I think it would be much better if you went after your town attorney's budget and quit writing in blank checks to sue our residents, like Diamond Eye and the McBrides. You need to stop those goofy lawsuits and start treating people equally and doing the right thing instead of pursuing all these lawsuits that he pursues. This town, in 2017, paid the highest per capita attorney's fees and legal fees of any city in Broward County. Any city at all. There were 2 other ones that paid a little bit less than us, but all the other cities in the town, we paid $68 a head. Every other town except for 2, Fort Lauderdale and Lauderdale by the Sea, everybody else paid under $20 a head. And I think that's where you ought to be looking to save money.
Any additional public comment?
Susan Wynn, I live at 4613 Hancock Road. I was honored to be the co-chair initially when we decided to become our own town. And I was fortunate enough to work with the late Gary Polyakov and many other very, very bright people. And we worked very hard to maintain and become nothing more than what we were, which was rural. And that's why we became our own town. Pembroke Pines tried to steal us. Davie wanted us. Everybody wanted us. We have a great tax base. But you know what? We said, no way. No one's going to interfere with our lifestyle and the way we live. Nobody's going to watch anybody. No one's going to report anybody. Everyone's going to live a peaceful, nice, rural lifestyle. Live and let live. And you can have a rooster, you can have a chicken, you can have a barn, you can have a horse, you can have dogs, whatever it may be. I think this is absolutely despicable that you are trying to run out every single barn, every single homeowner that came here years before, way years before, and for the reason that they could do what they wanted to do and have the animals that they love, et cetera, I think it's appallable that you would want to run everybody of this nature out. We became a town. Remember why? Keep our town rural. That was our slogan. Keep our town rural. What are you guys doing to keep our town rural? I don't see it. I see that you're killing our rural lifestyle. And I really think you should take a very, very wise and close-up look at your community and what they want. And I think it's about time that you listen to them very clearly and do as they say. Do keep our town rural. That is our slogan, that's our motto, and that's why we live here. Thank you very much.
No, because then we'll have to allow somebody else to. So, any additional public comment, though? All right, seeing no additional public comment. You got one more?
Giselle Fabel, 18130 Southwest 50th Court. 18130 Southwest 50th Court.
What's your name?
Giselle Fabel. I'm a clinical psychologist. I run a facility for children with autism and different disabilities, and I work with veterans and people who have mental disorders. My facility would be suffering. My stakeholders include children from the public school system who come and do their community service hours, children who come to communion with nature, children who don't have to stay at home playing video games, because we have Southwest Ranches communities that are providing still the ability or the availability of teaching children how to be in communion with nature. Taking away this little piece of haven that is left in this society where everything is hustle and bustle would be a crime. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Christine Sukalis, live over on Malaluka. We heard from a lot of people who were here from the beginning of the town, but I need you all to know, for people who have moved into this town after that, it was because of the appeal of the agricultural, rural lifestyle. You're all elected to protect that, and the people put you in to do that. And now, from your decisions that can be made or not made, this lifestyle will suffer or not. And that's wrong on a equitable level, it's wrong on a moral level, and it just subjects the town, when things have to be done with equality, to potential litigation and more costs for the residents. So I hope you guys really think about what you're doing.
Hi, good evening. My name is Keith Gillermott. I live at 13100 Southwest 28th Court in the town of Davie. Actually, I have an interest here in Southwest Ranches because I grew up here in the 1970s, and I've grown up with the lifestyle and everything else. My mother still has a property here, along with my stepmother, who also, my father just recently passed, and they have a property here, and they both have barns. And I'm listening to all your constituents here, and they're very concerned about what's going on and why the changes as far as the barn life and everything else, and why the rural changes. And also I listened to the president of Southwest Ranches, who has also said that your commercial base is going to be decreased. I don't know if you've ever looked at the budget, but how much would you increase from taxing your residents on their barns as opposed to the decrease in your commercial property? I'm not sure if you've reviewed that budget or not. But again, Southwest Ranches has a specific rural lifestyle, and these people do not want to leave those lifestyle because they're concerned about where they actually came from, why they're here, and it seems to me that the whole changes are coming. So, I just wanted to voice my opinion as a person that actually grew up here. I'm still interested because I still have my stepmother that lives here, and they also have barns. So I think that you also have tax from the Broward County Property Tax Assessor's Office that I've noticed is on their property tax bill. So I'm not sure of why this special fire assessment is actually necessary for a tax base. So I'm just a little concerned about that, and that's why I showed up here tonight. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, y'all. Excuse me, Deborah Goff Rose, Southwest Ranches, 17330 Southwest 58th Street in Rolling Oaks. And I run goats and chickens. Now, I was here from the first, and I helped go to door and all that good stuff with Susan and several of the others. And I was looking at the pictures over there, and one pops out to me, besides Mecca, was Johnny Dollar. Yes, our saying was, let's keep it rural, but what Johnny used to say was, the concrete stops here. I feel like people are going to be moving out without the barns. This feels like paving over paradise. And we can't have that. We're always talking about our green space, how wonderful our green space is. Well, if we're so darn hard up for money, sell that piece of property on Dykes and Griffin. I mean, we have the room, but we have so many parks. I love our parks. I will tell you that now. I'm a big proponent for Rolling Oaks Park, but I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford all these raises of taxes. So I really hope you take some of us older folks into consideration and go easy on us a bit. A lot of us have been here for years and years and years. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Back to the council. All right.
Anybody got answers to the questions?
I don't know. Keith, you all want to answer some questions people had? Or
I mean, a lot were policy statements to the council. Going through them for Neil Kalis, feel free to call me. If the council wants to do an executive session, a shade session on Diamond Eye, happy to do it at any time. Again, and this leads to Kathy Cox's question, Diamond Eye sued us, McBride sued us. We don't sue residents. I just want to clarify that. As it relates to Fred Cox,
we can't have that back and forth. Sorry.
okay. I'm looking for other questions, so just give me 1 second.
Keith, while you're looking, there's a couple other things I wanted to comment, Mayor.
Sure.
You're looking through your notes.
Go ahead.
One is there was a comment about $39,000, I believe, coming out of the volunteer budget, and that was not. It would come from the fire reserves. We would just reallocate from within the fire reserves. We would not take money from the volunteer fire department budget to fund the study. There were comments made about the commercial fire assessment fees. I think David Kaczynski spoke to the drastic reductions. What we're proposing tonight is putting them back from 39 cents a square foot, which is the proposed reduction, back up to 90 cents per square foot, so substantially raising those back. So it was very dramatic in the comments that you made, rightly so, in the reduction that they were seeing, but we're trying to reinstate that and put those back where they were. And the only other thing I wanted to add is I know there were a couple of comments made about saving a barn or the ability to save a barn in a fire. The important thing I want to say to you is if the barn is on fire, we're sending the fire department. And if it's your neighbor's barn, you're going to want the fire department there because you're going to want to be certain that that fire doesn't spread to your house. So the resources are going to be allocated anyway from a prevention standpoint, even if they may not be able to save the barn. And Keith, I don't know if you had anything else.
No, I mean, I was just going through real quickly, just for the record. Fred Cox mentioned my fire assessment. When my house was being built, it was vacant property. So I know you were doing it in jest, but the property was vacant, then I pay what everyone else pays. I also own 5 horses. I think you know that as well, so I just want to mention that. In regards to everything else, again, those were policy decisions, Susan. I'm just trying to go through it for questions. That's all I'm looking for. That's a policy decision for the town council to make, and I know your position on this well. The only other thing that I want to add is Russell brought up 2 confusions, and he just wanted to make sure it's clear for the public. That is, if you are a residential homeowner that has a barn, like I do, you're not being assessed under this fire study. This fire study specifically states that if you have an ag exemption in a commercial business, if you have a commercial farm, then you're being assessed. That's why this room is packed with 5,000 more people, is because it differentiates for some reason the difference between a residence that has a barn and a commercial barn. I know that Andy has told me 20 times that this is going to be addressed in the new study, but that's what we're working with today, which is this study, which does show a difference between a commercial barn and a non-commercial barn. Other than that, there was one other point that you wanted me to make. And I think, Andy, you addressed it for David Kaczynski, but David, I just want to make sure you understood, because I know, again, it looked very effective to state where all the commercial assessments go to, but I stated it before, but in case anyone's confused, you take that 2.2 million that the town has to raise, and you divide it amongst the categories based on the percentages in the fire study. So yes, David's correct that if you add in 138 additional square feet of barn structures, that commercial drops as a result that there's more properties that it's being affected. By pulling them out, if the council chooses to pull them out, which I think Andy's recommending tonight, then that goes back up to 90 cents a foot instead of 99 cents where they were charged last year. So they would go back up as a result. So again, it's a policy decision, and it's here for your consideration.
Doug, can I just ask Marty to do a back-of-the-envelope calculation
Go right ahead.
while we're talking? We're talking about dropping the commercial from 99 cents to 90 cents, so 9 cents a square foot. Can you come up with what the delta is for the commercial category as it stands today? Because I'd love to know what that number is. I mean, we're giving all of these, I'm sure Publix may not like me saying this, but I don't know if they really need a tax break. They had a banner year. Same thing with Lowe's. So I'd love to know what that number is in terms of the reduction.
Bob, the reduction as presented from 99 to 90, if you're inquiring as to the differential, that is the amount that's being assigned to the new.
That's not what I'm asking you.
So I need to
know the math.
more specifically.
I know the math. I'd love to know what the difference is, everything else being equal except for the Diamond Eyes property being in there, what the difference is in revenue between the 99 and the 90. If there's 100,000 square feet of retail property out there, and that's what, $9,000. If it's 1 million square feet, it's a heck of a lot more money. And I believe you've been crunching the numbers all week. I want to know what the difference is in that category between the 99 cents and the 90 cents. A number.
We tonight, with the change from square footage, the additional square footage was in the neighborhood of 500,000 building square footage.
What additional square footage are you talking about?
That would have been the amount that is new building square footage as identified by the Broward County property
I'm not
appraiser.
asking the question properly because
So
you're giving me an answer that is not what I'm after, Martin. I just want to make it easier. This year, how much did we collect? And if we divide that by 99 cents a square foot, we know that it backs right into the number for that category. I want to know what the difference is if nothing changed between where we are today and because, I'll just put it right out there. I mean, it wasn't my intention to get into what I wanted to talk about, but if we leave it at 99 cents a square foot, are we right back where we were in terms of our revenue and we don't have to touch the barns? And I want to talk all about why we shouldn't touch the barns, but that wasn't my intention here.
Give me some time and
I'll be happy to. That's what I led off with. Take a few minutes and figure out what the delta is between the 99-cent rate and the 90-cent that's being proposed, okay?
What the approach I would use is utilize last year's commercial square footage, just time the 99 cents as compared to the
90 cents.
amount of commercial that is being proposed at 90 cents.
Exactly. Well, hold on. Let's just be clear. Let's not change the number of square feet because I don't want to talk about moving out and moving in. However many commercial square feet there were last year that we taxed at 99 cents a square foot, I want to use that same number and understand the difference between 90 and 99. Because if it's the $37,000 that we're talking about charging the barns, to me, We don't change their tax structure. Leave it alone and move on. But anyway, Doug, I just wanted to ask for a simple number. The 5 barns that are being moved out because they were unfairly taxed? I want to know a rough number to start with. But you're right. So Doug, why don't we go back into our deliberations? We can wait on that number.
Okay. Who wants to go next? You got something, Gary?
No, I'm listening to everybody. I've received numerous phone calls and emails backwards, pros and cons, believe it or not, which
Likewise.
and what was interesting was
Please be quiet.
what was this kind of reminds me of when I first got elected, and a BSO commander told me, he said, "You know you're doing your job when 50% of the town hates you." I think I'm there. I think
Sounds
I'm
like
there.
Roselli's wisdom.
No, I think it was Jarbo, actually. But,
Okay.
so.
I'll jump in just a minute. I've known about this problem for about 2 years. And we've been talking about it, throwing it around, but couldn't get any traction to get it fixed. So when these changes came into play, absolutely poured gas on the fire, and now we're here to fix it. So you all came to us less than 2 weeks ago. We told you we would work on it and come up with a solution as best we can and as soon as we can. But in the meantime, the ultimate fix is a new fire study. So we can't go anywhere and get it fixed permanently till we get another fire study. But we came up with a solution moving forward. Fred Cox, I'm sorry, but I'm going to use you an example. I don't know if you were paying anything before, but I think your new fire fee came in at like $1,100, if I wasn't mistaken. Okay. And under this new study, it would be like $125. Okay. So I don't, okay. But I guess my point is, I think from less than 2 weeks, and you all asking us for a fix for now, coming in and bringing that back to you this quick and this soon is huge. You know, you may not agree, but until a new fire study gets done, we need the ammunition to back it up to move forward to deal with. Okay? Well, okay, settle down, settle down. Anyhow, I'm just trying to tell you, we've known about it. We've worked at, Gay will tell you, I've been talking about this for 2 years. Okay? So it's come to a head. It's come to a fire. We actually have somewhat of a decent solution compared to where it was. Okay? I don't know how you can disagree with that, but that's okay. But moving forward, we're on it to get a fire study done, so it's all going to get fixed moving forward. So I don't know how you all can't be happy and supportive of that under the circumstances. Listen, we're trying to fix it permanently moving forward. Listen, if you don't want it, if you don't want it, I don't think you want to stick with what you have.
We need to have some decorum. Everybody needs to wait, one person at a time.
Okay, this isn't, okay, I was making a statement. I wasn't opening to an altercation back and forth in a discussion like that. I was just stating some facts and some issues and some things that have happened in a very short period of time to be helpful. Okay? Anybody else have any input here? Or want any input? You don't have to.
You know.
Come up to the mic, please. I'm not going to do this again.
I'm Ellie Keene at 16600 Southwest 52nd Place. The new proposal that you are discussing tonight is taking the commercial entities like Lowe's and Walgreens and taking them from the proposed
39 back to 90.
Back to 90, which is 9 cents less than what it was
Correct.
before. But what are you doing with the pole barn issue? I can't figure out,
The pole barn issue is pole barn. Pole barns are not assessed at all.
so it will not be taxed.
Pole barns are not assessed at all.
Okay, the
If you
people
have
that-
ag property, it's at $95.21 an acre that you have ag on.
So the barn itself is not going to be taxed, which I've been hearing around. Just
That's
the
my understanding.
acreage
Andy, would you
of
clarify that,
what is
please?
being done.
Okay,
That's
that's
the
what's being proposed. Correct.
The pole barn is not an issue in the ag tax rate. There's a barn on there or there's not a barn on there. If you have 5 acres, you're going to be charged $97 per
95.21 an acre.
an acre. The pole barn is null and void.
Correct.
Okay.
Please get a clarification, Mayor.
I'm going to let Keith answer.
Okay.
'Cause you're an attorney.
During the communications that I've had with him regarding my client and the other, I guess this would apply to the other 4 that were fire assessed in 2018. In 2018, as I told you, ours was over 12,000. It seemed that Mr. Polyakoff is indicating that the town is going to carve out from what you are doing for everybody else, my client and the other 4, and still consider them commercial at 39 cents. I do not understand how we get treated disparately from everybody else based on the comments that have been made from the dais. So could somebody please clarify to me exactly what is it that is going to happen with the 5? And of course, in some ways, we sort of brought this to a head by filing a lawsuit in order to really bring this issue to everybody's forefront about what's going on. So I think we're entitled to be treated just the same.
Keith?
No, I mean, Mayor, we're in litigation with Diamond Eye.
You said shade session.
If you want a shade session, but I'm right now following direction from Andy and how he wishes to proceed. He and I have had numerous conversations on this. Neil will tell you, I've even copied Andy on every single email as well. And, we will discuss this at a later date.
Keith, I'm not talking about the litigation.
I know,
I'm
but
talking about 2019,
I answered
2020.
your question on 2019 in a very long email today, but you're just wanting a public forum on the issue as well. So, because I'm also following direction from the town administrator, but that's okay. On this current matter, as I advised the council, if they would like a shade session, we're happy to discuss it further. One clarification that I'd like to make on I think it was Ellie, prior speaker. I just want to make sure everyone's clear on the answer because I don't think you were 100% clear. If you have a pole barn, which is an open air barn greater than 70%, it shouldn't be on the assessment roll under state law, okay? So if that is the issue, I think that's going to be a property appraiser issue that you're contending that you have a pole barn and not a full standing barn of greater than $10,000. So if you have an open air pole barn and it's on your tax rolls as a structure, that's something you have to deal with the property appraiser on. If you have a $10,000 or more barn on your property, what the town council has to make a decision on today is whether or not to charge you $95.21 an acre on the ag property rather than looking at the value and the square footage of the barn. So under the proposal that's before the council tonight, if your structure is 100,000 square feet, okay, we have some. The Cecil's old barns are huge. If you have an enormous barn on your property, you're not going to be charged under the proposal tonight for that square footage. Instead, you're just going to be charged $95.21 per agricultural acre, regardless of how large that structure is on your property. So hopefully I answered that a little bit clearer.
Yes. Hi, Eileen Dunn, 14490 Sterling Road.
Eileen, we're out of thing, but I'm going to let you go
Oh, I'm
because
sorry.
you didn't speak
Yeah, I
before,
know.
but
Everybody was complaining. And
All right.
So I thought I'd jump up. And
I'm
Keith,
not
you-
letting anybody else after her. Just clear the air.
Thank you
This is
so
not an open forum again. Sorry. Not.
Keith, thank you very much. You just answered my question because I've got 5 acres, 3.5 are ag, so I'm understanding I'm getting the $95 off.
95.21 per ag acreage.
Okay. I was a little confused.
If we pass this tonight.
Yes, I appreciate that. But I was a little confused because I do have a large barn on it, and I was
Not going to affect it.
not going to affect it all. And one more question I have. I did get my trim notice today, and what the heck am I going to do with that now? I mean, if I don't answer it, is it illegal? I mean, what do you
Go
do
ahead.
now?
He's going to answer that for you.
As it relates to the valuation of your home, okay, that is total separate.
Right.
If you're looking at the assessment, which is determined by the town, not the property appraiser, the town will be sending out a new notice to those people who are impacted. The notice, I understand, has already been drafted. It's ready to go pending an outcome or a decision by the council in this meeting. It will be sent by first-class mail.
Terrific.
Once that is sent out, your final tax bill that comes in November, that is sent not by the property appraiser, not by the town, sent by the county tax collector, that will have the proper fees all across the board. It will have your ad valorem on your house, your property, and the town's fire assessment fee as may be reduced if the council chooses to do so.
You did clarify, but I want to re-clarify. That little green notice that says in 2 weeks, if you don't file this thing, everything's going to go through. That's totally null and void at this point.
Don't know what she's referring to. Mila,
That's your ag renewal. I think you have to send that.
No, I mean the notice that if you object to this tax bill, the trim notice.
Hold on, she's going to get up and answer.
Okay, Mila, maybe you can address that because that's from your office. If you could, Mila, if you could just stay in the mic, sorry.
The property appraiser's office, to clarify the town's July 24th letter, included an insert just to make crystal clear to those property owners affected by the fire assessment what their remedies are. It specifically says that if you have an issue with the fire assessment, you have to file an objection and see the town. If you have an issue with the square footage or the value of the barn, then you reach out to us. All that does is clarify the July 24th letter, and that's not inconsistent with anything else in your trim notice.
The registered letter that you're going to be sending to each individual will make this null.
First class mail.
First class, right,
Yeah.
whatever.
We'll tell you your new fire assessment fee.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, that's good. Have a seat.
Why are the commercial buildings being taxed less than they were last year?
Okay, I tried to answer that. Mayor.
Have a seat, we'll answer it. Have a seat, we'll
promise
answer
you
it.
I'll answer that again. I'm happy to answer that again.
Barbara Lester.
Darling, what are we doing?
I want to ask.
It's not open.
Pole barn.
Okay, I'm not accepting any more speakers. We're closed to the public on that issue. We're discussing it. We're going to try to answer the question. I was just stating stuff previously on where we were going and what you all came and asked, and we've been working on fixing it. And we're trying to get it clarified across the board so you understand it. And it's just kind of getting out of hand. So I can't open it back up to the public. I apologize. I'm sorry. Mila, can you help her maybe or no?
Okay. Mayor, if I can, because there's still confusion on this, and I just
Yeah.
want to make sure
Go
everyone
right ahead.
understands. On, the individual
Barbara.
asked the question on commercial rate. I don't know where she went.
She's talking to her. Ask Mila to help.
Okay, no, on the commercial rate, just so that everyone's clear, you take the 2.2 million, which is the entire fire assessment, you divide it, or however you want to call it, by the 15.0283%, which is the allocation for commercial in the town, and that gives you a number that you have to break over the square footage. The square footage while the barns were in the commercial category, was 836,000. That went up by over 500,000 from last year. So as a result of that, the rate, which was 99 cents per square foot last year, dropped because of the additional 500,000 square feet that's divided into it to 39 cents a square feet. So what the town council is determining tonight is whether or not they want to move the barns out of that category. If the barns are moved out of that category, that number goes back to
90.
300 and change. There it is, 363,000 square feet. And by virtue of the fact that it goes from 836 to 363, the number goes back up to 90 cents a square foot, which is still 9 cents a square foot lower than last year. Hopefully that explained that answer a little better. As to the pole bar question that was almost asked but wasn't asked yet, as it relates to the pole barn, if your pole barn is 70% open air or more, it should not be on the tax rolls. Okay, it shouldn't be on our fire assessment. It shouldn't be on the valuation from the property appraiser. And that's defined by state law. So if your pole barn is on the trim notes, it may be an error. It happens. Call the property appraiser, have them come out and look at your pole barn so that you can show them that it's an open air structure.
All right, thanks, Keith. Something else I want to state. When we do this new fire study, when we implement and get it underway, we're going to have a involvement with residents, ag and non-ag, determining what categories will be and how will we carry forward in making that new study a success. So we're going to have a committee with residents related to ag and non-ag helping with creating those categories as we do the fire study moving forward. So I want everybody to realize that we're going to have as much involvement with the community to be a part of it in moving forward to get it fixed long term. All right. Anybody else? Anything else?
Bob, did you get your question?
No, I was giving Marty as much time as it
Marty,
takes.
how are you on an answer?
I have an approximation. With the acreage, the impacted parties, it's $37,530.82, which would equal approximate the 9 cents on the existing square footage. But the most important item that I need to emphasize is, although I deferred to legal, with the issue of exemption in this case would be a complete violation of the study as it exists.
What does that mean, exemption?
What in effect is if we raise the commercial and utilize it to offset the barn square footage, that's a direct violation of our existing study, the way we have had it in place for the last 8 years. And I deferred to legal with that. And that's the most important factor council needs to understand.
Okay.
Keith, do you want to check in on that?
What Marty is basically saying is, rather than following the study, you're charging an arbitrary number to commercial. I will defend the position of the council, however you all make it.
Right.
I don't know if you really want me to opine on that
No.
in case that's how you do. But, I will be happy to defend whatever decision the council makes if we are sued as a result.
Right.
Okay. Any
So-
other discussion?
Yeah, I do have some discussion to make on this because I completely disagree. If a mistake was made 8 years ago in interpretation, why continue to have that mistake go on? I agree, absolutely agree that we need to do a new fire study. As I said last time, the administration's been asking for a couple years and the council didn't see the importance. Clearly, I think people's minds have changed on the importance of a new fire study. I'd like to modify the resolution here because I think, based on all the information I heard about what we have discretion on, what we have challenges on, in my mind, we've got a commercial category that has a basis of cost based on the calculations that come out of the fire study. I think we should pull the barns that we're having the litigation with out of that. And if there is a need to raise the fire fees in that category because there's less qualifying property, so be it, okay? One of our categories of the fire fees then are going to go up over what they were last year, and it will be for the truly what I'll call retail commercial businesses, because clearly we've got definitions that contradict. I mean, an agricultural business is, or commercial business is much different than a retail commercial business. So I would suggest that we basically set it back to whatever that rate needs to be to cover the costs for the commercial category based on the square footage. The agricultural barns that are being discussed as being taxed, I don't agree. I mean, you know, somebody brought up our seal. I look at 5 horses every time I sit in this chair. When I tell people where I live, it's always referred to as horse country. You know, they love coming here to visit their friends with horses. I don't want to see any of that touched. I ran on Keep Us Rural, and I'm not the kind of person to put out all kinds of flyers and quotes, and then now that I'm elected, laugh at that whole concept. I mean, we are rural. It says it everywhere. I bought my land here 35 years ago for that reason, and I'm not going back on it. So in my mind, take out the 5 barns that have the problem. That solves that. We wait to adjust taxes because, you know, my phone hasn't stopped for almost 2 weeks now, over 2 weeks now. And there are people that are very willing to pay their fair share. That's the American way. And I said that last time too. And there are other people that feel that they really provide this community an identity that has no value. So somewhere in between, there's the right answer. And we're not going to answer that tonight. We know how everybody feels out there. But this is only one piece of our constituency, and this is only one problem in the fire fee. I mean, somebody mentioned how there's 20,000 square foot homes being charged the same as a 2,000 square foot home. I don't think that's equitable either. But we're not here to address that tonight. The fire fee, the fire study definitely needs to be revised. And I've been here for what we've had 3 done so far, and I actually talked to the guys up at League of Cities that put our first one together. We haven't had a lot of public input. We've discussed it at council meetings. The council's discussed it at council meetings. We haven't had the kind of public input I think we really need. I applaud the idea, Doug, of a resident committee that comes back and represents the community on that. So I would revise this to adjust the commercial category as necessary without impacting any of the ag, pull the 5 ag properties out, and we call this a day.
Well, we do have a motion and a second on the table.
So I'll call the question on this document then, on the resolution as it is, and we can either vote it in or vote it out and make modifications.
We're going to call the question, but we already have a
What's that?
motion and a second on the table.
We'll call a question means vote, right?
Okay, call the vote.
Councilmember Hartman?
No.
Councilmember Schroeder?
I want to abstain.
Can't.
I want to. I need time to process all this. No, I mean, I can give argument back if that's what you want. And I'm sitting up here trying to be quiet and civil and think about everybody's needs and wants. Everybody. And my phone also has been blowing up. And do you think I was happy when my neighbors called me and told me what they were going to have to pay? I didn't like it. That's such an easy thing to say for everybody sitting there. But you're not sitting here, you're not deciding for everybody. You're not deciding for the people that are sitting out there. Maybe not. Maybe not. Do I think that Lowe's and Publix and Cube Smart and the tire place should have had theirs lowered? No, I don't think they should have been lowered. Not at all. I still don't get why we did that, Marty. I am confused. I want to know why we lowered theirs. I still don't get it.
It was directly related to our fire assessment methodology. We were just following your study, our study that was put in place from 2011.
Why wasn't that ever corrected until now?
It was just recently found and discovered, this additional 500,000 square building square footage was recently discovered, of which we needed to act upon.
We gotta get this done.
I believe everybody should have to pay something. There is no such thing as a free ride.
And
I-
drag have you having huge tax savings.
I mean, well, I'm not going there.
Don't.
Okay. we can't-
Enough from
we
the
can't- we
audience,
can't
I'm
do this,
sorry.
people.
We're at a
gotta
vote
stop.
right now, actually.
I feel that in order to serve the public, I'm going to have to say no.
Yes.
Yes, but it's meaningless.
Yep.
It is.
But
It's a split.
state our
Doesn't pass.
position.
Yeah, doesn't pass. Doesn't pass. Let's back up a second. Okay, so obviously this failed. As it stands right now, because this failed, the first one is now
In effect.
in effect.
What you got on your tax bill is what's in play.
This was your relief,
It was.
and it just went down the tubes. Okay?
We were
Well,
trying to
that's
help,
still
and
an
you all here
injustice.
yelling, not realizing what you're voting for, but, okay. Let's see what happens.
I make a motion that we revise this resolution to go back to our prior fire assessment of 99 cents a square foot. Pull out the 5 barns that, in my view, are incorrectly categorized as commercial since. Thank you. Do I need to repeat? Okay. No problem. I thought I had my outside voice on. I want to make a motion to revise the resolution we have that will set the fire assessment at 99 cents a square foot for commercial. Pull out the barns that, in my view, were miscategorized as commercial, the ones that are basically suing us, and not charge the ag barns that have been identified in this cycle as ag barns, regardless of what category we're trying to put them in. Basically, do things the way we did it last year, minus those 5 barns.
Councilmember Hartman, if I may throw something out there that may make your motion potentially more ironclad from a legal perspective, is maybe make the motion that the town would exempt out the 138 properties and pay the 37,000 change?
That would be $530.83, and also increase the commercial to 90 cents. We need that.
No, I'm saying
to occur.
99, right?
No, 90 is 90. It's difficult as an attorney to say things you really don't want to say. 90 is really the cap, because that's where you came out with. If you go above 90, the town has to become the collection agent for that money, because you're going beyond where you originally set it at 90 cents. Okay?
I remember when we did that.
So what I am trying to suggest is, instead of doing that, you may wish to consider to subsidize the ag for just this year with the $37,000 from the town's general fund. Take it from legal. I'm okay, Lori. And use those funds to pay
Sure.
pay yourself.
Okay.
So I'm doing what you're suggesting, but trying to do it in a easier manner for the town. If
So
that's-
moved. Have you got that, Russell? Okay,
But
I
we
second
have
it.
the gist of what needs to be done, so.
okay.
So that means the town is picking up the tab, basically,
Right,
The $37,000.
right.
which you all pay anyways. I mean, it's kind of like a dog chasing its tail.
Well, we have a reserve fund. We have Keith volunteering some of the legal
We didn't
fees.
get that money from nowhere, though. The taxpayers have paid for it.
So what's your point?
So we're just taking.
We're
it
robbing
back.
Peter to pay Paul here.
Yes.
I'm all right with that.
Hold on. That's not exactly true. We're robbing from the entire town to pay just for the ag people.
I guess that's how you see it, Doug. I don't see it that way.
Yeah, of course, if they adopt it, absolutely.
No.
That's what you feel about.
No, thanks. I'm trying to get used to this chair. Thank you, though.
No, I'm not open to the public. He asked me if I was going to open it to the floor. I said no.
So is there a
There's a
second?
motion and a second.
Yes.
Yeah, Gary seconded. Call the question.
Councilmember Hartman,
Yes.
Councilmember Schroeder,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jablonski,
Yes.
Mayor McKay.
No.
Motion passes 3-1 to exempt the fees. The town of Centerpoint, right.
No win. This is a no-win situation.
And now they all leave.
Damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to.
Yeah, budget workshop.
Listen, that's only 100-something people.
You caught that.
I know. That's the part.
I'm sure there'll
That's
be
the
other
problem.
questions that come up.
Not a problem for me.
130
Sorry,
people. Property.
Wow.
My hands are soaking.
Huh? What's that? I'm leaving.
Doug,
Me too.
Mayor,
I've got to go to
What?
the
you
bar.
want to take a 5-minute break before we resume?
I don't care.
Yeah,
That's up to you.
please.
Yeah. You want to or no?
There's going to be a little.
All right, we're going to take a break for 5 minutes before we continue the rest of the meeting. All right, as soon as that door is closed and we got it. All right.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And now back to our regularly scheduled program.
Okay, I'll take it. Marty Sherwood, you're up to bat.
Thank you, Mayor. Good
Don't
evening.
strike out.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, general public. Thank you for attending our special meeting. This was part of our special meeting, but we're modifying our budget workshop as part of the special meeting tonight. We have PowerPoint handouts within the agenda. We have some up by the town clerk's desk here. We have some on the podium for those who'd like to follow my presentation tonight, which addresses all components townwide of taxes and fire assessment and solid waste assessment. I also have additional handouts in the back. We will have this posted on the website as we normally do. I want to thank Rich Strum here tonight, the controller. And if anyone have any questions afterwards, feel free to give our town a call, Attention Finance Department, and we'll go into any questions you have in more detail. The budget process calendar of events, we had on Thursday, July 25th, the prelim and initial fire solid waste assessment adoption. Tonight is our proposed budget special meeting, which we took action specifically as it relates to the fire assessment, which I've included in the PowerPoint for your analysis and review. We still have 2 public hearings as well as an advertisement, one on Thursday, September 12th, 2019 at 6 p.m. That's right before our regularly scheduled council meeting. At that time, we'll cover the first public hearing for the tentative millage and budget adoption, and our final fire protection and solid waste special assessment adoption. The second public hearing will be on Thursday, September 26, 2019, also at 6 p.m. That will be our second public hearing for final millage and budget adoption. Our distinguished council, mayor, and vice mayor slide. Our first slide presents the general fund revenues of what is proposed within our budget, where our funds come from. $12,795,993. As you'll see from the top line, the $6.5 million is almost 51% of total revenue. That's our largest revenue source. Our second, moving down to the special assessment revenue, that's comprised of our net fire assessment fees. That represents approximately 16%. Franchise and utility taxes has a 14.6%. And moving on down to the other components, they're single digits in nature, of which they all total up to this $12,795,993. Where our funds go, the same amount with the balanced budget in accordance with Florida statute. As you will see, our public safety of $6,795,510. Now, in that number is our police, our fire, and our volunteer fire. And we're fortunate. Most towns and municipalities have in excess of 60% of their budget representing in public safety. We're at a 53% level. General government, that's our executive, our legislative, your finance departments, clerk, legal, that comprise $2,488,478, almost 20%. The third are general government transfers, which include our TISDOR, our capital projects, and our debt service. That's at $1,963,058 and is approximately 15%. Our other small components comprise our building, our code, our parks, rec, and open spaces, as well as our public works department. Our summary across the board, on our slide, you will see on the left side our 1920 proposed rates and fees compared to our fiscal year 18-19. That's our current year. As you will see, as it relates to our total millage rate, we're going a decrease of 0.1747 as indicated in red to the rollback rate from a millage rate of 4.8311 to 4.6564. Our fire assessment, which in the prior year had a $25.16 increase, we're proposing tonight, and it remains at $20.14 decrease, which is approximately a 3.7% per residential dwelling unit decrease from fiscal year 2019. Our solid waste net decrease is $21.77 decrease or greater, which also represents an average of approximately 5.4% decrease throughout all residential parcel lot sizes. The combined rate impacts, first, as it relates to the operating millage, the proposed rate for operating purposes at 4.2125 represents a 0.2844 millage and a $173 decrease per 250,000 taxable value, which covers funding for some new and ongoing program mods, capital improvement projects. Our TISDOR, the proposed funded amount of $624,267 is an increase from last fiscal year, which was $450,000, and represents therefore represents an increase per $250 of taxable, $250,000 of taxable value. The millage rate is a 0.1097 increase from the prior year's adopted Tisdale millage, which is due primarily to the increased funded amount. This portion represents a $173 increase, and when you net and combined with the above operating millage decrease, the net result is a zero net change per $250,000 of taxable value and a net decrease in millage of 0.17147, equaling the rollback rate. Our residential fire fees, the proposed rate would result, as previously mentioned, the $20.14 decrease per residential dwelling unit, and our solid waste rate will, as previously mentioned, reflect a decrease in all residential categories averaging 5.4%, or the range given of $21.77 to $68.63, depending on each parcel's lot size, square footage. I'm moving to the discussion on our property tax millage. We got the millage proposed for Tisdale specifically, and then we're going to cover the municipal rates compared within all of Broward County. Our Tisdale millage for fiscal year 1920, the total cost you will see is $1,101,000, broken out into the current funded amount for the next year of $624,267, plus our carryover of $375,834. A question you may be asking is, how can we have a decrease in millage proposed with next year? Our current economic environment supports a higher conservatively forecast 2020 operating revenues as regards to building, permitting, and zoning, as well as state revenue sharing. We've had growth in net new taxable value of almost $25 million, which represents 1.64% of 5.39% in total townwide growth. We've had significant reduction in our legal department budgeted expenditures. We're anticipating lower debt interest expense due to Federal Reserve Bank lowering of interest rates, as well as an overall lower outstanding principal balance. Second page covers more items of why a decrease in millage is proposed. There is no material impact in fiscal year 2020 like we had in fiscal year 2019 to the general fund from the new Florida Statute 170.014, which granted 100% fire assessment exemption to all vacant agricultural land. Our quality of life and level service improvements. Our millage-funded program mods are less in number and dollar scope. Our capital improvement projects, as proposed, the millage-funded CIPs are also less in number and dollar scope. And finally, our transportation fund annual operating deficit of approximately 60% is now being funded through its funds available restricted fund balance. Moving to our millage within Broward County comparison narrative. Currently, that's this year, our Southwest Ranches operating millage plus Tisdale millage is the 8th lowest combined operating and debt millage in Broward County. The proposed 2020 millage rate, which is to the rollback rate, including the Tisdale, favorably moves the relative position of Southwest Ranches to 7th lowest of 31 municipalities. Accordingly, The relative position of Southwest ranches among Broward County municipalities still remains approximately within the upper 25 percentile. There are 24 municipalities that are proposing millage rates higher than Southwest ranches for fiscal year 2019-2020. So you will see on the next slide where we rank, we did a little jump over Lazy Lake. You will see on the left column our fiscal year 19 actual operating and debt millage, which is all in millage. And on the right column is our fiscal year 20 proposed operating and debt millage. So you see the total proposed rate going back to the rollback rate, reduced rate to 4.6564. What's interesting about this is that you will see when you come to the break point that almost 2/3, when you get to over Davie, when you get down to 11, which is 20 of the 30, 2/3 of municipalities have 6 mills or greater. So we're excellent in relationship to the other municipality rates that is being proposed tonight. We have 17 through 31 on the next slide. You will see there's a couple on the tail end that exceed 9. One, in effect, even exceeds 10 mills or more greater, which is the first time that I have ever seen a total combined millage in excess of 10 mills in my governmental and municipal career. The fire assessment, moving on to the fire assessment introduction, that the 3-step assessment methodology is unchanged from the prior year based on our 2011 consultant study. The proposed and actual rates with history by category. And finally, we're giving you municipal rates compared this year as compared to next year. The assessment is permitted by Florida Statute Chapters 166.021 and 166.041 and is adopted by Town Ordinance 2001-09. And our Ordinance 2001-09 requires that the annual rate be established each fiscal year. The first slide gives you a graph of our residential and vacant ag. You will see the line from last year to this year. If Rich has the ability to point, if you see a red dot, you will see the trend down. In all categories, you will note a trend down. The residential rate going from $543.65 to $523.51. Our vacant agricultural, $96 to $95.21. The next slide gives you our industrial warehouse, our commercial, our institutional, and includes the revised rate in the middle, which is our commercial, what was originally proposed on July 25th, 2019 at 39 cents. By your actions tonight increased it to 90 cents. And our institutional from 29 cents to 25 cents. The important thing on our comparisons, because we're going to move on to our municipal comparisons, is that a number of municipalities subsidize fire protection assessment cost with property tax. That's through general fund revenue. Actually, there are some, because you will see we don't have 31 municipalities, there are some municipalities that do not even have a fire assessment in place. And therefore, they fund 100% from their general fund. Southwest Ranch's policy has been that they do not subsidize any fire protection costs from its general fund. The numbers provided to the Broward County property appraiser and provided here for service cost comparisons are therefore not truly reflective of the 100% full cost recovery for fire protection. For example, Sunrise has indicated that their proposed fire assessment represents only 70% of full cost recovery, meaning 30% is included in their general fund as a subsidy. Municipalities with an unchanged assessment are likely subsidizing their fire operations in the case of shortfall, or utilizing their fund balance to fund their fire capital projects. Southwest Ranches proposes a decrease of 3.7%, or $20.14 per residential dwelling unit.
Can I ask you a question before you move off of fire fees? You mentioned that some cities don't collect it at all, okay? Are they paying through their ad valorem, or is it like Cooper City where the county is actually charging a municipal services tax to the residents in lieu of the city, since BSO provides their in this case, well, their fire protection?
That's a good question, Council Member. It's 100% subsidy through their general fund, which would be ad valorem millage. There's only two methods, and this only relates to fire protection costs. Right. You can only assess based on fire protection. So these rates do not include the general fund subsidies, only the actual stated rates that each individual municipality intends to collect for fire protection, but is not true or full cost recovery. Did I answer the question? Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so you will see a reduced rate. We've gone from $543.65 to $523.51, a 3.7% decrease. We have the largest decrease. You will see between this slide and the next slide. Actually, what I highlighted is some municipalities, including Fort Lauderdale, Deerfield Beach, and Coral Springs, have in excess of 10%. Deerfield Beach being the largest, proposing a 34.29%, which is obviously a movement by their council to migrate more towards full cost recovery for their fire assessment fees. That's the way we would need to assume. So we have a 3.7% decrease. The only other one that has offered and proposed a decrease for residential dwelling units is Wilton Manors at number 20, and their decrease is a 1.42% decrease. So this gives you a good comparison of where we stand throughout Broward County to those who assess a residential fire fee.
Marty, if I may. How much is it going to go up when we got to recover that $37,000 that we just approved tonight?
There was no change, no impact to your residential fire fee tonight. It was only the commercial, which went from 39 cents to 90 cents.
No, I know that, but we're offsetting it with from the general fund.
the
So
general
to recover that money, what's that going to cost? Yeah, I'm teasing. You haven't figured that out yet, but I just thought I'd throw that out
That will need
there.
to be absorbed
Okay.
in a few different ways, but that's exactly what's going to need to happen.
I heard
through
legal gave it
general
up.
fund. All right, let's move on to the solid waste assessment. We're on the tail end here. Thank you. As an introduction, we're going to cover the assessment legal requirements and our comparisons to the prior year. Our solid waste garbage assessment, it's permitted by Florida statute chapters 197.3632. This is all residential, by the way. The annual rate establishment is required by Town Ordinance 2002-08. And with that, we have our residential lot square footage, our tranches. They're called assessment rates based on individual parcel size. And this is, if you could look over towards the right-hand side, the proposed rates or adopted rates, the assessed rates for 1819 as compared to the proposed rates for 1920, you will note a range of decrease of $21.77 to the top end, the larger than 107,000 lot square footage would be a $68.63 reduction per year. For fiscal year 1920, we proudly propose a decrease in all residential categories, averaging 5.4%, depending on lot size, square footage. This occurred due to successful management and legal negotiation, obtaining a permanently reduced bulk disposal maximum generation factor from 4.67 to 3.73 tons per unit per year, which was partly offset by our annual collection element contractual adjustments, and it does reflect our town council policy of full cost recovery. On the big scheme, over the past 9 years, now going, 8 years, is the fact that we went back to 2012. And the increase as proposed in fiscal year 2020 as compared to fiscal year 2012 has an overall average increase of less than 1%. So in effect, if we annualize, there has only been, on average, a 1% increase annually per year over the past 5 years. Now, moving into our 2020 proposed budget book. This is available to all members either at the front desk, on the website. We have copies here tonight. The budget, as usual, has full transparency. It includes funded programs as projects, what has been indicated as such by your staff, advisory boards, and council members. It's council policy focused document with input from our advisory boards. It includes our restricted, committed, assigned, and unassigned fund balance pursuant to GASB 54 for all funds which are disclosed. It includes departmental descriptions, services, accomplishments with goals and objectives for next year's, and includes departmental and fund histories. We provide an explanation of material budget changes. We have a variance analysis included. We included the detailed program mods, which highlighted the proposed customer service levels changes. And we have a detailed capital improvements and 5-year capital improvement program. Additional, at the back end of the book, it includes a glossary and fund descriptions. Our program mods funded as proposed is 10 in total for next year. We have town hall improved security, our council chambers camera program, information technology replacement program. The town's 20th anniversary celebration is funded. We're proposing the town hall exterior repainting project. We have website redesign and ADA compliance program mod, and a townwide vehicle replacement program in place, new for this upcoming year. Our volunteer fire department safety equipment. Now, the important thing to note is all of these have no millage impact. This has only fire assessment impact. It includes a bunker gear replacement program. We have an SCBA mask fit certification equipment. All this is for a volunteer fire department. And finally, as a replacement for the fire apparatus program, we're recommending a substitution of our fire protection rate assessment study as indicated in red as advised for $39,000. There's 5 moving to the capital improvement projects. There's 5 funded as proposed for next year. We have the fire well replacement and installation. That one has no millage impact because that is part of our fire assessment. We're making progress on Frontier Trails conservation area. We're proposing town hall complex safety, drainage, and mitigation improvements. A lot of that is grant funded. And finally, our transportation projects. We have our TISDOR, our drainage improvements, of which I remind you all that the TISDOR expenses require funding separate from our regular operating millage, which was previously explained. And that's all I have, Mayor. If anyone has any question, comments, and direction, we welcome that tonight. This is what you will see when we go to our September 12th first budget hearing.
Colleagues, any input? Public, any input?
Noah Hollingsworth, 199th Avenue. One of the glaring defects in this budget that I see is in every year past up until this year, you have had in the capital improvement areas and other areas where you had the funded section and then you had a non-funded section where all of the projects that were deemed to be not as necessary as the funded ones were put, and individuals, not in our books, individuals could look at them and then advocate if they desired for a non-funded project in addition to the funded or in place of. So we have no idea what was not funded this year at all. And that is a glaring defect this year versus all of the other years. And I would like to see that mandated by the council to be put back in for the next.
It's in the book.
What?
It is in the book.
I've got a book right there and it's not in it.
Well, then you don't have a complete book.
I'm sorry, that's the book they gave me.
Talk
So,
to Andy, he'll get
anyway,
it fixed for you.
The council must have a different book than I have. So the non-funded projects are in. The one that I would like to advocate for is the West Side Drainage Master Plan. I have talked to you about that before and said that the town is losing money by not having the master plan. And I do not see it in there, so therefore.
Thanks, George.
So anyway. I'll look at this later. But anyway, I'd like to say that the non-funded projects not being in there, I do not see anywhere in the book that I looked at had where that is listed as a non-funded project. And I would like the council to supremely counsel it. Thank you.
We'll see that you have it.
Can I respond to it?
Go right ahead, Bob.
So, Newell, George, you want to explain what's going on at the last couple of drainage committee meetings and how we're asking Rod to actually begin investigating and bring us back what the benefits are and all the things we've been talking about? Not up. Just explain it to Newell. Thank you.
Ooh.
Debbie Green, 5201 Southwest 199th Avenue. I just wanted to clarify, because during the previous agenda item, where we said that the 39,000, first it was coming from the fire department, the volunteer fire department, and that was part of theirs, and then later it was said it was coming from the general fund. So I just wanted to clarify, because that was revised, so I don't know if this is now going to have that revision removed. I just wanted to understand where it's coming from, because I think for it to take away from.
I'm going to let Andy answer that for you.
Yeah, Debbie, it's actually two different issues. The $39,000 is to fund the fire study for next year. the 37.5 approximately shortfall to make up for the funding on the barns will come from the general fund reserves. So it's two different things.
So what was that fire assessment, special fire assessment that was revised now down the 39,000? Is that moving that the repairs or whatever, the improvements to the truck? Is that taking that away and pushing it out?
No,
Or
that's
still there?
money that has been put aside for future replacement of that apparatus. We're going to reallocate that this year to do the study and then replace that.
That's what that's what I don't understand. So we're reallocating money from that public safety to do a study, which
Within
I
the
didn't get that from
within
the
the
prior
reserves,
meeting.
we're not taking it from any specific line items for the coming year.
Okay, but isn't it
We're robbing the piggy bank.
We're borrowing it from somewhere and going to replace
Taking
it.
we're taking it from the piggy bank,
But in the budget we're presenting, we're taking it out of
the reserves.
the reserve for the
Right,
fire.
which is the
for
piggy
the
bank.
Fire rescue, we're taking it out of the reserve.
Which
for
is the
fire
piggy
rescue
bank.
Instead of the reserve
Right.
for the
It
general.
does not affect any operations today.
I'm just gonna, Kathy Cox, 4940 Thoroughbred Lane. I just want to make an observation that, okay, the tax structure and assessments and things are going down. Your millage rate is going down. But that's largely because of the 25 million in townwide growth, which is where all the horse barns and all the horse properties are getting bulldozed down, and we're building these huge houses, and that's why you have a bunch more money. And, you know, is that what we really want? And, you know, you sort of have to stop and think about that, about what the long-term
You have no way
effects
to
of
stop
this.
that.
There's no way to stop it. There isn't. But you might want to think about how you assess fires. You know, do you want to put it in the millage rate so that the bigger houses have to pay a little bit more? Or you put it in, do you make a different kind of an assessment instead of just by the $540 for everybody in the town? You know, there's ways to work on that. And I mean, it's great that there's town growth. I sort of hate to see it growing the way it is, but it is inevitable. And, you know, pretty soon, like Mary Ann said, we'll just have to white out the horse on the thing, on the town symbol up there. Anyway, just an observation.
Steve Brickrus, 5120 Southwest 195th Terrace. I want to follow up on what Debbie Green had asked, because so the funds that were there, they were allocated towards fire apparatus. So is that a sinking fund towards future purchases? Was there any purchases that were allocated this year that are not going to happen this year? Because I don't, what I want to know is, what were they allocated for? If they were not for specific purposes this year, then they should be for a specific purpose in the future years, okay? If they are for a specific purchase in the future years, what are they for? And are we going to double allocate next year to make up for what we're taking out this year? In other words, we're losing, you know, $39,000 towards fire apparatus if we rob the piggy bank.
No,
And
the
so
intention is to refund it.
So my question is, are we going to refund it next year? Are we going to double up next year? If that was the plan, to put in $39,000 each year, are we doubling up on that next year, or are we netting, losing that funding towards our firefighters? Thank you.
I think that's a discussion for next year.
Yeah, I do. I don't think that's going to get double up on. I just think it's going to be replaced because we're going to use it.
For next year, then we are in fact losing the money. And it's money that's coming out of the piggy bank and is going from needs that the firefighters have to
No, this is
the
a truck
study.
replacement, not the apparatus.
It is. It's the money from the apparatus that's moving over there. It's
Not
right
the
on
app-
your, it's slide on your, go put the slide up. Put the
Okay.
slide up. If you don't think it's there, put the slide up. That's what the slide says. There it is. Fire apparatus replacement program is crossed out. Fire protection assessment study is listed. It's right there. Mayor?
Yeah, well, they had it listed, I don't know if it's listed wrong, but I was told it was for vehicle replacement. But here and
What
there.
it says. Fire apparatus replacement program, crossed out. Fire protection rate assessment study revised, 39,000.
Listen, it's borrowing from Peter to pay Paul, and we're going to replenish it next year, wherever it comes from. Any additional public comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Back to the council. Bob? No?
Nope.
Okay, Gary, anything? Dee, go ahead. You wanna
Yeah, I didn't hear what you said.
I said, do you have anything you want to add on this or no?
No, I just
Okay.
wanted, the budget presentation, just want to mention Marty was outstanding, as usual, and you really did a great job. And I know a lot of this, the guy who's not talking, he's down at the end, and it's Andy, and he has a lot to do with this, because him and Marty talk every day on this, and I would like everybody to know that. I mean, Andy's being silent down there, but he's just as much a part of this as Marty is, and I want to say great job to both of you guys. So, and your departments.
Thank you, and staff as well. They all had input into the process, as well as you, Mayor and Commissioners, were a big part. Thank you. To be able to present 3 decreases across the board is fantastic.
You were scared we were going to cut and cut and cut and cut.
Not done yet. 2 more hearings.
We still have our scissors ready.
2 more hearings.
Yeah, Marty, I'm remiss in not thanking you and the administrative team for putting this together. You guys did a great job. You know, I've sat in that corner seat there in the front row for years, throwing darts at the budgets that were presented, and, you know, you and I had a number of discussions on this, and, I mean, I'm happy with where it is. Thank you. And thank you to the team.
Yeah, absolutely. Greatly appreciated. Thanks for all the hard work for everybody involved, because it doesn't do without your staff assisting you. And Andy, so it's not often you get all 3 levels of reduction. So don't know that we're going to see that next year, but we'll have to deal with it when it comes.
1 year at a time, Mayor.
Yeah, I get it. Okay.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
on the side, Councilmember Jablonski was asking me questions, but they're very important questions that I think that everyone should hear, especially
Go right ahead.
while we're all here. Marty, for the fire assessment study, I know there's a critical date it has to be completed by in order to be ready for next year. What is that date?
The statute deadline before extension is January 1st, 2020.
Right.
Which is less than 6 months
That's what I'm saying.
away. There are extensions available, but not more than 60 days. So
And the
we
reason
need to start this process very quickly.
And the reason I say this, I want everyone to understand, and if I'm not clear, you know, please tell me. Right, that because of what transpired tonight in the direction of the council, the procurement for that fire assessment study has to get out like immediately, okay? And one of the factors in that fire assessment study, although you're going to have all your meetings on methodology and everything else, is going to be the dollar amount that the council wants to assess and spread across whatever categories that you all create. So the question that former Councilmember Bright Cruz brought up, while it's not necessary to answer today, it is a question that has to be answered very shortly, because if you're doubling up and adding that additional close to $40,000 again next year, it increases that dollar amount that's going to be spread against the categories. And because we only have really 90 days to do this, if the council wants to discuss that tonight, it may aid in Marty when he provides the numbers to the winner of the RFP.
Do
So
we
I just
have
wanted
any
to-
numbers related to that? Have we put anything out? Do we have any numbers in related to the fire study as of yet?
No.
Okay. So can we direct you all to move forward to get those numbers ASAP so we can be on this?
Yeah, I think it's clear from tonight that there's the council consensus from all of you, and I'll ask you just to reaffirm that.
Okay.
But that the consensus is there for us to move ahead with that.
I'm on board, and we got to do it as quickly as possible.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't realize there was a January 1.
Yeah, we are collecting.
Expiration date.
Yeah, there's a process that's involved.
Yeah, I know.
We'll need to notify the property appraiser's office of a notice of our intent to change that methodology. There is a timeline that needs to play out, obviously, but it's certainly clear from the council that you want to move this forward. You want to move it through quickly. We've been, finance has already been reaching out to other municipalities to get copies of their studies. While every municipality is different, you can't directly piggyback on somebody else's because the mix of properties is different everywhere, so it needs to be done for that. But
All
we're
right.
looking at other studies that people have done, so we can bring all that information and include that in our scope. And
Well, along with that, I would like to know how many people that we want on this study as far as residents, ag, non-ag, moving forward to help with this process. So,
And that would be something that would be ideal perhaps to talk about a little bit, although it's not on the agenda. You may want to talk about that as soon as Thursday night of
okay.
this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to
That'd be a great
goal
topic
is-
for Thursday night.
Listen, I don't want us
Light
behind the
agenda.
8 ball here moving
Yeah,
forward.
no, that would be good, and, I think it would be appropriate to, in your mix, to think about long-term residents, newer residents, agricultural, non-agricultural, to make sure that you have a balance there. And you may want to think about, for example, you don't want to have too small a group because you want to have enough input. You don't want to have too large a group because you don't want it to become unwieldy. So, perhaps 2 appointees per council member, even if it's an even number, it's not the end of the world because they're
Yeah.
only going to bring you recommendations.
Yep.
They're not forming policy. So,
Well,
my
that sounds
suggestion
sufficient.
might be-
Everybody okay with just in conversation, two people per person up here for us?
Why don't we think about it and decide on Thursday?
Yeah, that's why I'm just throwing it out there
You know,
as a consideration, not.
Listen, I think
I
it's
don't
a
want to
good
make a
idea.
decision on that tonight.
Okay, listen, we don't
Take
have
a couple
to.
days on it.
Just want to bounce it around a little bit.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Thursday night we
Starting
can talk it to death if we want. We got a
Right.
very light agenda, so.
Right, because,
Right.
because the work product, for lack of a better term, the recommendations that come out of that board, we're going to want very quickly. So it's not
Well,
like a
that's
town
exactly where
advisory-
I was going.
No, I'm
We
not
got to
looking for
get that
town-
together and moving because we need the data to give to the fire study.
Exactly. It's not like we're forming a town advisory board that's going to meet monthly. You're
Right.
going to form a specialized
A purpose.
committee that you're going to task
Yeah,
them with.
we can wait
with-
2 days.
With meeting on a much more,
Yep.
a restricted,
All right.
schedule.
Well, let me
Yeah,
throw
what-
something in that I'm not.
A little
all that
closer to
clear
the
on.
mic,
Yeah,
Bob.
sorry.
Sorry.
We'd have 2 residents to choose, assumably one in a residential category, the other in, and then what do we test them with? Shouldn't we be waiting until we have whoever's doing the fire study to help us coordinate the feedback that they need from this board we put together, or this committee we put together? I mean, if we send them out, if we pick 2 people each. and
Oh,
we've
no,
got-
without a doubt, they're going to have a little direction from whoever
So
we're going to pick.
I would suggest that Marty Sherwood becomes the liaison of that committee because he has the familiarity to talk about that methodology. Obviously, we've got, as you saw tonight, some very passionate and very knowledgeable residents as well who will have some thoughts. Obviously, the final methodology is going to be up to the council. From my standpoint, getting that public input, the more feedback that you guys have before that is helpful. But ultimately, the feedback, it allows you to take the concern from the residents and then deal with a consultant later. And you could always bring that group back together to bounce something around if you need to.
Okay. All right.
We'll talk.
Yeah.
Adjourn?
I don't want
Yeah,
to
I mean,
waste anybody's time.
this is a process we need to.
Well,
yeah, work through.
do we need a motion on the presentation or no? That was just, that was,
No.
that was it.
If
Okay.
you want one, we'll
I
give
do,
you
I
one,
do
but-
have another question, and it's something for the council to consider.
Go ahead.
And that is with the fire study, what if it comes in double that? 39,000 or 60,000 or 50,000. We need to be thinking about where we're going to get the money. Yeah, we can build it onto the fire fee, but we need to be thinking about that between now and Thursday.
Listen,
Yeah.
whatever it is, we got to pay it.
Yeah, I know, that's what I'm saying.
How we recoup it's another thing, but
Yeah.
we got to pay
I'm
it.
just throwing that out there right now, So that was one of the reasons why we delayed the study for so many years. Now we have a good reason to put it in place, because this scenario didn't exist 2, 3, 4 years ago.
Well, 2 years ago it did, because I've been talking about it for 2 years behind the scenes.
Yeah, but we didn't have a commercial ag category, you know, I mean, that was
Doug, you
pretty
keep
far away.
saying that. I'm interested to know why you didn't bring it before the council since it's.
You know, I've been
poten-
talking with Marty, and I've been talking with Andy, and I've been, you know, they were implementing different things, and I'm like, listen, I don't think that's gonna work moving forward. We need to fix it, we need to do something. They, well, this is all we have. So I said, well, it's not gonna work. It's gonna blow up at some point, and sure enough, it took a year and a half, but it started blowing up, so.
Okay. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Thank you, Dee.
Second.
Thank you.